Hey guys, welcome back to What Next? And this week we're going over the 1994 classic prison movie, The Shawshank Redemption. So that's why I kind of got my black and whites on for that. Shout out to Dixon. Even though this is a Charlie Chaplin flannel, so we'll leave that alone since we're not sponsored by Dixon. Yeah, just kidding. All right, so again, if you guys haven't seen this one, do yourself a favor and go ahead and watch this one. I saw this, I was streaming through Hulu, saw it pop up, and I'm like, you know what, I haven't seen this one in probably 10 years. So I decided, let me give it a watch, give it a whirl, and then we'll post it on here. So, just literally got done watching it. I decided, I'm going to hop on and record this one for everyone while everything's still fresh in my mind. So, for those of you who have seen it, let's jump into it. So now, we know the story, we know the ending, we know that Andy and Red essentially meet up. Andy escapes. We all know that. If you haven't seen it, like I said, do yourself a favor and go ahead and watch it. It's actually a Stephen King book, which I might just have to find that and read it. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to this story than we got in the movie. Stephen King's always very, very descriptive in his writing, so might just need to read this one and see if there's any extra cool features that would have been good in the movie but just didn't make it. So I'm watching these two at the end scene, and then I'm kind of thinking, that's crazy because this whole time, I'm guessing it's been, a couple years since, Andy breaks out, but it's like this whole time he's living as an escaped fugitive. Now, I know this takes place back in like the 40s, so everything worked out, I guess, in his favor because IDs, driver's licenses, birth certificates, everything was just paper. Like, driver's licenses probably didn't even have photos on them yet. So, as long as he has identification, he's fine. So, I definitely think that played in his I helped him out with his escape. Also, the fact he's living down in Mexico. But to me, it's just like, it's crazy. Like, he literally has to spend the rest of his life as a escaped fugitive because everybody's looking for him. Like, he escaped from a maximum security prison. Now, he is in Mexico, so they're probably not going to look for him down there. Who knows? But again, if they do, he has all the documentation to say he's this other guy. So I was always I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, I wonder if they ever caught up with him. Same thing with Red. I know Red technically does break parole and, leaves the state, and, being his age, they probably figured who knows, maybe they think the guy probably just wandered off somewhere and passed away, or his parole officer may or may not he'll probably put in the paperwork like, yeah, this guy hasn't checked in. Let's put out a warrant for him. But since he's down in Mexico too now, I doubt they're ever going to chase him because he's probably got to be in his 60s or 70s, I think, by the time he technically gets paroled. So, same thing. Like I said, I doubt they'll kick up a fuss for an old crook like me. So, so both of these guys definitely have warrants out for them. So, I'm just kind of like, that's crazy. Like, I'm like, what does their life look like moving forward with this? Like, clearly Andy's got plenty of money for being in the 40s. He's got a little over $300,000, which in the 40s, who knows what that is equivalent to today. So him and Red are technically fine. So we see them. Andy's working on a boat. So I think they just both kind of get together and build a life down there in probably Mexico. Like Andy said, he wanted to do a charter boat company and, take people out in the ocean. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, did that ever happen? Or since Red actually met up with him, maybe they decided to go somewhere else and, vacation or live. Like maybe Andy's done with Mexico because he stayed there for a while hoping Red would show up, and he actually did. So it's like, hey, I got all this money. Let's go to, maybe South America or something like that and live down that way. Like, I was always kind of curious what happens with those two going down the way because, they're technically both single guys. Obviously, they're technically on the run, so they would probably never use their real names again. But, it's like, do they stay together for, essentially for forever? It's just kind of like two single guys always living together, or do they meet some ladies along the way and get married? Who knows? Like, there's a lot of life left for them to live. So, it just brought back all those things. Like, I'm just really curious what their lives look like together post all this. Like, essentially they almost, they have enough money that they'll be fine. So it's just like, wow, what do these two guys do for the rest of their days? So that's always kind of something that I thought about. I remember watching this when I was younger. and watching it again today, I was just like, man, like, now I'm thinking about it, it's like, yeah, they definitely could have disappeared into Mexico, South America, and gone wherever from there, because they all had IDs. Like I said, IDs were paper then, so they all could have changed their identity. Like, they could have given Red a new name with an ID, social security card, all that stuff, and they could have just vanished. Like, who knows where they go. So that was my main point on this one. It's just like, where did these two guys go? How did they live after that, knowing that technically they're still on the run, so if anyone were to recognize them, it's like, hey, but, you know, you never know. Again, might be reading too much into it. And then you have your secondary characters that, you know, played in some factors. Like the warden, I know the warden kills himself, but at the end it was like, how does all that coming out change Shawshank as a prison? You know, because they still have a lot of buddies that are left behind in prison. So how exactly does this change the prison? Like, does the prison change at all? You know, obviously there's a new warden at the end. How does life for them go now that everybody finds out the old warden was, you know, shady, running all these deals? So it's like, and, you know, having people killed. So it's like, how does their quality of life change in prison post all this in Shawshank? So I think that's a good question to ask, thinking about if the prison changed at all, if it got a little softer, maybe it got a little, you know, harder on presence for certain other things. Again, the warden, he's gone, so we don't technically have to worry about him. You have Byron Hadley, who's the guard. He goes to jail, so it's kind of like, what happens with him? Like, I know he's probably got convicted of murder, you know, for all the stuff that Andy put in the notes going to the newspaper. So it's what is, like, do they go light on him? Does he have to spend life in jail? Like, does he end up at Shawshank as an inmate? Like where does he go and how does he get in trouble? Like, I'm just so curious about that, because he was kind of like the big bad guard over there, got away with whatever he wanted because he ran everything and he was judge, jury, and executioner in his own, you know, palace, being the prison. So now that he's in trouble, got arrested and taken away. So it's like, where does he go? Like, is it kind of some sort of ironic justicing that he finds himself in Shawshank at the end, surrounded by all the guys he was, you know, bullying and beating up on all these years, or, you know, or where do they send him? Like, that was just another thing. I was like, oh yeah, I wonder what happened to this guy and where he got sent, because clearly he's not ex-police, but he's an ex-guard. So it's like, where do they stick him? You know, like I said, for the time being, back in the 40s, I'm sure he lived somewhere in the area. So I don't know if there's too many other prisons that they could send him to, or jails. So it'd be interesting to see what exactly they did with him and where his story kind of leads after that, or how much time he actually got for all the shenanigans, because we really don't know what he's being accused of. We see him just getting taken away in handcuffs, and we don't know what exactly they're charging him with, going into trial and anything like that. Again, probably reading way too much into it, but it's still a question I have and I wanted to ask, thinking about what's going next. Post that, like I said, the other guys, they're still stuck in prison, unfortunately. So it's, do any of them get out, you know, as the years go on and they get older, kind of like how Red and Brooks did? Like, are they just letting these guys out when they're old and they essentially can't hang in the real world because they've been stuck in prison so long and that's all they know? But yeah, that's all I had for this one. Like I said, just got done watching it, so I wanted to jump on here and record this for you guys so it's fresh in my mind. If you think of anything or know of anything that maybe I missed on this, or going fat, maybe some of you guys have read the book and you know, maybe in the book it describes what Andy and Red do post all this. So comment below. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.